Aha, the tables have turned. Well, hey there. Welcome back. We're going to do something a little bit different that's off the way we normally do things. A change in format, if you will. Normally, I introduce something that you may or may not have a perception of. We discuss it, we discuss its impact, and then we have a bit of homework or a takeaway or something tangible. In this case, we're almost going to do something the opposite, in the way you're going to give me homework. Aha, the tables have turned. So here's my question to you. What thing do you struggle with? And that's a hugely open question, but it can be anything. I mean, if I say that to you and say, what's the thing you struggle with? What I find interesting about that is that when you ask people that, or when I'm asked that, I go, oh, what? There's a lot of defenses that come up from that. There's a lot of, oh, wait, why would you suggest I'm struggling? Do I seem like someone who struggles and doesn't have it together? Right? I mean, we need to operate at a certain high level in life. Maslow's principles and all that aside, we like to think that we're far beyond survival mode, where we're in success mode, and and when you're in that mode of being professional and you're forced to be professional all day long, if somebody asks you that, you have to kind of drop your mode and say, well, wait, struggle. Now, in some cases, people may say, well, I struggle with my personnel. I struggle with the people on my team. Or I struggle with a specific person on my team. Or I struggle with a client. And so these are all struggles that are based on a person or personality that you have to deal with in one way or another. Now, you may struggle with a person or personality in your home life. You may have a teenager. You may have a teenager that you have to deal with, and all the wonders biochemically and intellectually that are happening to that person. You may have little kids. You may have a recent child. You may have twins and triplets, God help you. You may have someone in your family that has an addiction. But it doesn't need to be grand things like this either. It may just simply be, hey, you know what? I guess I struggle with weight loss. I struggle with weight loss because I eat a lot, or I eat too fast, or I really like food, or I don't really like food, but it's a reward system that I've used, or I have an issue from my childhood that I have to deal with, or something like that. You may say, well, I don't know if you'd call it struggling, Mark, but I'm trying to be more successful at work. I've been applying for higher positions within this company, and I'm hitting a wall. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong, because I know that I'm the right person for this job. You may say, well, it comes naturally to you, Mark. Well, thank you. But I struggle with communicating. I have an issue with communication. I don't sound very eloquent when I write emails. I sound a bit demanding, or it doesn't sound good. I rewrite emails 16 times because I'm afraid to hurt someone's feelings, or I think I said something wrong. And then I hear their voice in my head going, oh, okay, that's not what I meant. You may struggle with balancing work and life. You may think to yourself, well, I'm so heavily invested in my work that, I don't know, there's not a lot that happens at home, and I'm kind of on sort of a autopilot mode, and my spouse is the one that says, hey, we should do this, or hey, what happened to that whole vacation concept, or hey, do you want to do this on the weekend, or what are we going to do for date night, or what have you. You may struggle with the opposite, in which you can't be as invested in your work because you have a lot of family stuff going on and you're trying to balance that. You may feel that you have a creative itch and you want to do something like, you want to do pottery, or you want to do something, or you're frustrated because you don't know what you don't know. You feel like you have friends that do things and you're like, they get so much joy out of doing these fun things. Why don't I have a fun thing? What do I even like? And you think about everything from pottery to writing, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's a lot of commitment, and I don't think I'd get joy out of that. You may struggle with an energy level and say, look, it doesn't matter. None of this matters, Mark, because I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the energy to pursue something fun. I don't have the energy to give it my 110% at work. I don't have the energy to have work-life balance, because that assumes that I'd actually be excited about either one of those things. You may have that, and please don't beat yourself up if you do. But there are people that struggle with simply having the energy. And they have people in their life saying, oh, you should take a supplement, or you should do this, or you should do that. And speaking of that, there are people who struggle with saying, hey, I would love to be more active. I can't believe how inactive. I'm just a lump now. I can't believe how inactive I have become. I don't know. I don't belong to a gym. I guess I could join a gym or I could join something, but then I'd still have to motivate myself to go. And then I'd have to find time for that. So are any of these, as ChatGPT would say, resonating with you? Okay, let's continue. You may be frustrated with your own personality. I'm pausing to let that sink in because if you are, you might feel validated and attacked at the same time. And if you're not, you might think that that's an absurd thing to say. But a lot of people feel that way, especially when they meet someone that's either dynamic or they meet someone they're like, man, that person has it all together. I hate them. Because you may struggle and say, oh, I'm just so lazy about this thing that I don't do. Or I'm so easily triggered about this thing, or I react so poorly, or I wish I was stronger, but I don't want to be confrontational. I mean, that's you basically being kind of unsatisfied with your personality. And you may say, well, no, it's not my personality. It's a facet. It's a failing of my personality. But no matter which way you phrase it, it doesn't sound great, right? But you may struggle with that, or you may perceive that you're struggling with that. Aha, here comes the perception part. So we're doing it backwards this time. All of the things that I just described as things you're struggling with may simply be perceptions of struggling. And how do we get a perception of struggling? Well, because it doesn't feel good, right? Mark, it doesn't feel good when I feel this way, or when I eat, or when I do this, or when I don't work out, or when I compare. What? I'm sorry, what were you going to say? When you compare yourself to someone else. And there are people who say, well, you shouldn't compare. Yeah, but yeah, you should. Come on, go for it. Do it. I'll watch. Of course you're going to compare yourself to other people. We all have, our brain has the detection of the underpinnings of the universe that it has to deal with. It has to say, is this thing solid? Can I move through here? Can I breathe here? Is this right? Is this hurting me? Is this a good thing? We're constantly sampling and comparing. So if you say, well, this person at work who has the same job as I do is successful and I'm not, well, I'm frustrated with that, right? You can compare your looks, your physical appearance, the way that you treat your physical appearance. You can look at someone else at the gym and say, wow, look at them. I want to be like that. There's nothing wrong with that. Comparison helps give us a goal, and it proves to us that it's possible. Those are two wildly positive things that people remove when they're like, oh, you shouldn't compare. Stop that. But back to the perception. You may have a perception because you've compared, and you compare yourself to someone who really isn't in a place that you're in, right? I mean, you may be somebody who is juggling a professional position, young kids, trying to have a good relationship, trying to live a full life. And then you look at someone else who's just pursuing this thing to the max, and you're like, wow, I could never do that. Well, they have a massive amount of time that you don't have, and they're missing a bunch of the elements that you do have. So that's one of the situations where comparison can be a little bit misleading. But again, the perception is there that sometimes the perception is there, meaning it's just your perception. You perceive it to be a certain way, but it really isn't that way. And how do you tell? Well, it's hard to tell by just keeping it in your head. Sometimes you have to talk to someone about it, whether it's your spouse or someone that you enlist professionally or what have you. Sometimes you have to talk to someone and say that. But it is hard to approach somebody and say, hey, am I lacking in this department? Oh boy, I'll just take a deep breath while you berate me and tell me that I'm not good enough. Does this sound emotionally charged today? It's not supposed to be, but it is dipping into the world of the ludicrous in a way, but it's something that I'm turning around. I'm making something opposite for once. Instead of me saying, here's a thing, please perceive it, here's how we deal with it, and here's your homework, I'm saying, no, you tell me. So the outcome of this is that I would love to hear from you about what your struggles are. And so I'm going to give you specific instructions on how to reach me, okay? You can find me on LinkedIn, Mark Bradford on LinkedIn, if you don't already see that. It's on every piece of media I ever put out. It's on the Alchemy for Life website. That's Alchemy for, there's a period, and then life. How clever. You can email me at media@alchemy4.life. You can reach me on Instagram, and you really should follow me on Instagram because I post really pretty movies and pictures and things like that. I am author Mark Bradford, so at author Mark Bradford on Instagram. So you can DM me there as well. I also have other emails and websites and so forth, but that's more than enough to facilitate you finding me at Alchemy for Life and markbradford.org. Those all have phone numbers. I'm not saying you necessarily would want to call me and leave me a voicemail, but I'd prefer the other forms of media. So please reach out and let me know what it is you're struggling with. I'm very interested to see what people struggle with, and I'd love to hear about something I didn't even mention. So thank you for listening to this very unorthodox episode, and I look forward to hearing from you, and take care of yourself. One more thing. I have supreme appreciation for the people so far that have been pre-readers and beta readers for my latest book, Because. And I mention that now, first of all, to just show some gratitude, but secondly, to tell you the power of feedback. Tremendous feedback. These are people that have actually sat with me for up to an hour to discuss their reading process and their reading experience. I'm not asking you to sit with me for an hour. I'm asking you to just write me an email and tell me about your struggle. So there is huge power in feedback. Please make use of it. Thank you.
Living life every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Yeah.
Join the community, patreon.com/alchemy for life. Oh, and my 10th book is now coming out.
Every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.